everybody. Middle of August and very abundant time of the year. So I decided to make stuffed zucchini today, Romanian style. I remember when my mother and my grandmother used to make it in Romania. It was one of my favorite things to eat. And right now I have a super abundance of zucchini and other vegetables, but especially the zucchini. So I decided to kind of put together the recipe that I remember and feed my family, and hopefully they'll enjoy it as much as I did. So, and I'm going to share it here too, just in case you want to feel inspired or you have an abundance of zucchini or anyway. So I already laid out here all my ingredients. I'm going to go through it. It's pretty simple. So I have tomatoes from my garden. Everything here is pretty much from my garden. So tomatoes, the herbs I have are right here. I have dill right here, and there's basil, and there's parsley, all of which are just make the whole thing delicious. And a little bit more basil. And then I have olive oil, good quality olive oil, which obviously I didn't grow, but you know, just bought at the store. And here are my zucchini that I'm gonna cut up and core and stuff. And then of course garlic and onions, which I use in pretty much everything I cook. And then I'm going to make a vegetarian version because half our family is vegetarian and half is not. So in the vegetarian version, I'm only going to stuff the zucchini with, I'm going to use basically everything I just showed you, plus rice, which I'm cooking right now. And in the non-vegetarian version, I'm going to use all of that, plus some of this beef right here, which came from our cows. Very grateful. So this is just ground beef from our cows. So what I'm going to do basically is, actually, hold on, let me get this phone then. Alright, so sorry about that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this rough recipe, which I wrote right here. It's in Romanian, but I'll tell you in English too what I have, what I plan to do. So I'm gonna heat up some of the oil in a pot, and I'm gonna chop down the onions and garlic, chop them pretty finely. I'm gonna warm them up. Actually, I'm gonna warm up the oil, then I'm gonna put the onions and garlic and saute them. Before that, I'm gonna take the zucchini and I'm gonna chop them maybe about this, and you know, 3 pieces each. They're pretty big. So I'm going to chop them in 3 pieces each, and then I'm going to take out all of the inside. So basically all I'm going to have is a shell that I can then stuff. I'm going to take out the insides of the zucchini, and I'm going to chop that up pretty finely too. And after I saute my onions and garlic, I'm gonna add that pulp, that zucchini pulp to it. And then I'm gonna add some of these herbs that I talked about before. So some of the dill and basil and parsley. And then I'm gonna mix that whole saute that I just made with my cooked rice. And if I'm doing the non-vegetarian version, I'm gonna brown the meat, and I'm gonna mix it with the meat a little bit too. Alright, so here I have my onion, my garlic, ready to chop them. And I also have my zucchini, which I already cut and cored, so you can see I just basically carved the insides, took out all the inside. And here are the insides of the zucchini, the flesh that I sort of chopped up. Alright, so now I'm just sauteing the garlic and onion. And in a few minutes, you know, I just saute them until the onions kind of get translucent. About, I don't know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes maybe. And it's on medium heat. And then I'm gonna add this chopped up zucchini core and a few of these herbs right here. I have my parsley and my dill and my basil chopped up. And I'm gonna add some paprika that I have right here in my jar, salt and pepper. So my recipe, you know, as you can see, I don't give exact quantities because that's not how I operate. I sort of go by my taste and just my own experience. But you can see, I think this video gives you a little bit of an idea about the approximate quantities. And I also want to say that this recipe is very popular in many countries, not just Romania, but, you know, Eastern Europe and basically east of there. I think Greece, Turkey. I know in Lebanon, they do a lot of stuffed zucchini like this. So if you feel like getting an idea of the different variations, you know, you can definitely look it up online, and I'm sure you'll come up with a lot of ideas. But this is just my own version, and yeah, so I'll keep it going. All right, so what I have here is my sauteed vegetables, and I added those herbs, and then I mixed in with my rice, which was about half cooked, so it wasn't fully cooked. And then I just added salt and a little bit of sweet paprika, about a teaspoon of sweet paprika for this whole pan. So I'm just gonna let this simmer together a little bit on low heat. And in the meantime, I'm gonna cover it actually and let it simmer. There we go. And I was told it smells very good by my children and their friend. And in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prepare these tomatoes. I'm gonna take them and chop them up and mix them in with some herbs and some garlic and make a nice sauce out of it. All right, so I'll show you that. All right, so here are my tomatoes. I just chopped them up and I threw them in this pan on kind of low, medium heat. I'm just gonna cook them down a little bit, just let them get a little bit saucy and kind of release some of their juices. These are juicy tomatoes to begin with. They're mostly heirloom tomatoes. I think you can use any tomatoes. I've used Romas, I've used just regular tomatoes, and I usually use whatever I can't sell at my farm. So I use stuff that has a little bit of damage, like this one has a little bit of damage over here. I just chop that off and then use the rest. And on top of these tomatoes that I have cooking, I'm going to add my garlic, just more garlic. As far as I'm concerned, you can't have too much garlic. So, so far I used at least, I think, 8 cloves of garlic in this dish that I'm cooking. And basil. Basil is best friends with tomatoes, I think. So they make a really good combination. So I'm going to add these to my tomatoes over here and maybe cook it down for about less than 5 minutes. And then I'm going to use them as my sauce, which I'm going to pour around my stuffed zucchini. So while the tomatoes are cooking, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rice and vegetable mixture and I'm going to stuff the zucchini right here. I'm going to stuff my zucchini with it. I'll show you that in a little while. Alright, so here we are. I stuffed the zucchini and I actually ended up having way too much rice and vegetable mixture, as you can see here. And so I also ended up getting a pepper, just a nice red pepper, and I stuffed that. I'm gonna put the lid on it. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tomato sauce, which is saucy enough, and I'm going to pour it on top of the zucchini and around it. And I think what I'm going to do also is I'm going to keep some of this mixture. I'm going to put some of this rice mix right around everything, even if it's not stuffing anything. I'm just going to put it kind of on the bottom of the pot. So I'm going to put the tomato sauce on everything, and then I'm going to top everything with a last sprinkling of herbs, dill and parsley right here, and I'm going to put it in the oven. Alright, so here's what everything looks like at the end, just before I put it in the oven. I think my grandmother and my mother would be pretty happy with this. And I just wanted to say also that if you were making the non-vegetarian version, so if you're going to use meat, you would basically do the exact same thing, but instead of just putting in rice mixture, you would use maybe half rice and half meat, half ground meat, whatever meat you have, you know, beef or ground lamb works really well, or goat I'm sure would work well. But basically just whatever your preference is, you know, if you want to do 75% meat and 25% rice, that's fine. Just go with your taste. And so I'm going to put this in the oven at 350. I'm actually going to cover it at first, and I'm going to check it after about half an hour and see what things look like. And when I'm pretty happy with it, when it looks like it's pretty bubbly and saucy and just everything looks pretty cooked. Right now the rice is about, I would say, 60% cooked. So when it looks like everything's well cooked, after about half an hour or so, I'm going to uncover it and I'm going to let it kind of roast a little bit on top for another 15 minutes. Alright, so I'm just going to sit down a little bit now that my stuff is in the oven. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found something helpful or useful in it. I definitely enjoyed making it and thinking about my mom and my grandma and you know, all the other women in the world and men, everybody who's cooking and homemaking, and you know, there's just something really nice and earthy in doing this kind of thing. And I'm sorry if you are the kind of person who prefers more exact directions. I don't really work very well like that. I would say, you know, for sure you can find very exact recipes online, and you know, this video is more of a rough guideline, you know, just I guess it's more of a story rather than a recipe. All right, well, good luck in your cooking adventures, and enjoy the rest of this beautiful day.